up, Define Nation, and welcome to another episode of Define Your Health with Danielle Girdano, strength through knowledge. In Define Nation, we are continuing our conversation today in our series talking about dental hygiene, good dental hygiene, an overall healthy lifestyle, how dental hygiene plays into that. And one of the things I'm just absolutely passionate about is the type of chemicals that are in a lot of toothpaste, a lot of products that are used for oral hygiene. And so we are going to pick apart toothpaste today and talk about some of these different type of chemicals and how you can avoid them and what to look for. We are joined today by a very special guest, and that is Darrell Bashard from Redmond, Utah, all the way in Utah. And Darrell is a wonderful, wonderful gentleman who is a absolute outdoor enthusiast. As a matter of fact, Darrell, you were telling me that you just got off the slopes of 3 foot deep. I think you said the snow was out there.
Yeah, it was amazing this morning. Great skiing here in Utah.
That's awesome. And of course, Darrell, you are also the business development manager for Redmond Incorporated, which is one of my most favorite companies when we're talking about healthy living and products that do not have, for lack of a better term, crap that we don't need to have in our oral hygiene products or put near or close to our body. And so thank you so much for joining us first and foremost.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on your program today. I'd love to talk about what's in your toothpaste.
Yeah, and, I want to dig right into probably the biggest difference. Now, one of my favorite toothpaste, well, it's hard to pick the flavors, I think, is Earth Paste, which is actually made by you guys. But the reason why I found Earth Paste, and I kind of stumbled upon it, it was because it said it was all natural, and it said it was made with mud, which kind of threw me for a little bit of a loop. And the very first time I used it, the first thing that jumped out was it didn't foam up like traditional toothpaste that I was used to using. Now, of course, this is before I knew that foaming agents were harmful, and I really didn't understand them. So if we could start there, I'd appreciate that. If you can kind of take us, what exactly is a foaming agent, and why is this harmful?
Yeah, so one of the main ingredients in toothpaste is a foaming agent. It's sodium lauryl sulfate is the very common one, or SLS, and it's used because people think foam means clean, and there's no other purpose to have foaming in your toothpaste other than a consumer thinks that suds equals clean. What's interesting is if you went to the dentist and had your teeth cleaned, they don't use foaming Kofi paste. So foaming doesn't mean cleaning, and in fact, there are some problems with these foaming agents. Primarily, they cause trauma to the membranes in the mouth. If you've ever had a canker sore from toothpaste, and a lot of people have, actually quite a bit of the population is sensitive to this foaming agent, and they cause little micro breaks and micro cracks in the membranes of the mouth, and so it causes these canker sores. It also leads to dry mouth because of the way the foaming agents react to the mouth and saliva glands. It can cause dry mouth, which leads to mouth acidity. And mouth acidity, of course, that leads to dental problems, tooth decay, acid erosion, and things like that. And so there's really no reason to use a foaming toothpaste. And you're right, the first time you switch, if you're used to this frothy, foamy mouth, and then the first time you switch to a non-foaming toothpaste or you make your own at home and you start brushing, you're going to feel like you're brushing with nothing. There's like nothing in your mouth. Mm-hmm. But if you just continue on and then notice how clean your teeth feel, even without the foam, you're just amazed at how clean your teeth are without the foam. And then after you've brushed for a week or two without foam, if you try to go back to a foaming toothpaste, it about gags you because it's just this frothy, thick, sudsy sensation that is not normal.
Well, and and that was one of the things that struck me whenever I started using the Earth Paste, and it was just simply, my teeth just felt so clean. And I'm kind of a oral hygiene freak. I was probably the only kid growing up that looked forward to going to the dentist. I would get excited, like, hey, wait, I get to go next week, and I noticed how clean and how smooth my teeth felt. And it really reminded me, after I go to the dentist and I get a professional cleaning, it felt the same. And that's what really started to attract me. And of course, there are the benefits of not having those harmful chemicals. But for me, right off the bat, that's why I kept using it, because I'm like, oh my goodness, it feels so great.
And it's quite a paradigm shift. If your entire life have grown up to that sensation of foam, when you switch, it feels different. However, for kids particularly, and in countries where they aren't used to foaming agents, it's kind of counterintuitive to fill your mouth full of frothy suds, but yet it seems very common. And in fact, when you switch away from a foaming toothpaste, it feels odd at first, but you get used to it very quickly. Now, because Dr. Oz and a few other people talked about how SLS, or sodium lauryl sulfate, is such a bad thing, a couple years ago, then toothpaste manufacturers started to pull out that SLS, that very common foaming agent at the time, but now it's been replaced with other foaming agents. And so things like lauryl sulfates and cocoa lauryl sulfates and things like that, if you can't pronounce the ingredient in your toothpaste, or you're really sure you want to be putting it in your mouth every day, twice a day, which is kind of where we decided to come up with Earth Paste, and kept the ingredients to 5 really simple ingredients. And so if you compare the ingredients on most toothpaste to one that you'd make yourself or to Earth Paste, it's dramatically different.
Well, and I think that is a common rule of thumb that people should really live by. If you don't know what it is, your body's not going to know what it is. And real quickly, Darrell, I want to finish up this segment asking you, why do you think that this isn't more general knowledge, and why foaming agents and the harmful effects of foaming agents are so unknown to most people?
I think a lot of it is just, it's so much part of our everyday life that who would even think to look at the ingredients of their toothpaste? It's very much like salt. Salt is one of our other main products here at Redmond. We have a brand called Real Salt. And people today are just so surprised when they walk to their cupboard and they look at the ingredient label on their salt shaker, and there's things like dextrose and sodium ferrocyanide and calcium silicate and aluminum. All kinds of stuff is in these products that you've just taken for granted. And I think that's why it's so common, but yet so almost mind-blowing when somebody looks at the ingredients on their salt and realizes all the stuff that's in there, or they take the time to look at the ingredient on their toothpaste and they can't pronounce half of them. And toothpaste, nothing should be artificial, fluoride, artificial neon blue or hot pink, or if you're putting neon blue in your mouth, there may be, or if it's got sparkles in it, or if it tastes like bubble gum, or you got to stop and think about some of these things that we're using on a daily basis. And yeah, you may not be eating the whole tube, but something that you're putting in your mouth, you really want to have that kind of stuff in there.
And most of those type of products are aimed towards kids, which is we could go on endlessly about the harmful things that kids ingest on a daily basis. But we are going to have to cut away to a commercial break, Darrell. Defy Nation, remember that this segment is brought to you by Total Balance Apparel. Harmony in the parts of a whole. Creating, evolving, and continuously seeking balance. Visit them today at TotalBalanceUSA.com. Hey, Defy Nation, this is Danielle, and I have to let you guys know about Total Balance Apparel. Harmony and the parts of a whole to create, evolve, and continuously seeking balance in the quality of life and environment are the driving factors and thoughts behind Total Balance. These principles come to life in the designs and the collections. Their 2015 collection is absolutely amazing, totally a trendsetter. Don't just live your balance, wear it. More than a brand, it's your lifestyle. Check out their 2015 line at TotalBalanceUSA.com. That's TotalBalanceUSA.com.
For 20 years, Nordic Naturals has been dedicated to making the best fish oil on the planet. Their motivation? The heartfelt belief that a single nutrient can change lives. Their love for what they do and the people they do it for drives them to do it right at any cost. That means products that are outrageously fresh, obsessively tested, and passionately perfected. Products that taste so pure, you'll love them. Try Nordic Naturals award-winning omega-3s today and taste pure love. Available at natural product stores nationwide or at NordicNaturals.com.
We are back to Define Nation with our very special guest, Darrell Bashard, who tore himself away from the ski slopes in Utah to talk a little bit about toothpaste and oral hygiene products with us today. And we had ended that last segment really talking about what was in kids' products or products that are aimed towards kids that have sparklies or crazy colors in it. And I want to get into something that's really been a center of controversy for so many municipalities, so many products, and that's fluoride. Now, when I was a kid, and I think even today, I think dentists still actively promote fluoride for kids, even for adults, I should say. But we're starting to hear a lot of negative effects about the overuse of fluoride and the bad after effects of having fluoride. So, since you're the expert, Darrell, break it down to us. What exactly is fluoride, and when exactly was it first introduced to the mass population?
Well, fluoride was first introduced. There was a study that showed that people in Colorado that had fluoride in their natural spring water had healthier teeth. And so they thought, oh, this is a good thing. And then it was sponsored by the aluminum manufacturing industry to say this is a great way to get rid of this byproduct. And so there's a lot of just a lot of information on both sides of the fluoride debate.
Well, and how shocking it was about an industrial industry trying to make money off of a byproduct. It seems so common of things today that's the scenario. But I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's okay. So fluoride is a known neurotoxin, and no matter what side you fall on the side of in this debate on fluoride's, this terrible thing and fluoride this wonderful thing, everybody knows that fluoride is a neurotoxin.
And what
so
exactly is that? Can you back up just for 1 second? I want to make sure that our listeners understand exactly what that is.
It short circuits and causes damage to the neuro, which is brain. So it causes brain damage, or it can cause brain damage, causes damage to the neurotransmitters and things in the brain. And this is why, if you see a bag of fluoride, it's got a great big skull and crossbones. It is a known neurotoxin. There's no question about that. The question is, maybe in a small amount, maybe it's not going to be really bad, and in fact, there may be some good properties if it's in a small amount. And in fact, there is natural fluoride in the foods we eat, and there's natural fluoride in spring water, and that's a little bit different than the processed, then we find sodium fluoride that's added to water supplies and toothpaste. Now, what's interesting, though, is backing up even why we put that in dental products, and that's because we thought it maybe made the teeth stronger. Now, if you ask any dentist or you go to any dental school or hygienist and ask what teeth are made of, what enamel's made of, the answer is not fluoride. What enamel is made of is actually calcium phosphate, and that is what enamel's made of.
Okay.
And everybody knows this, and this is why you have Egyptian mummies that have beautiful teeth long before we added fluoride to water or toothpaste. And yet they never had fluoride added to their water, and they still had great teeth because teeth are made of calcium phosphate. Now, fluoride is hard. It does make enamel hard. And so if you are going to have terrible teeth, one option is to replace or rebuild the enamel naturally with calcium phosphate, which is what enamel's made of, or you could try to do it with fluoride. And so both of those are valid arguments. And so my point is that if your teeth are made naturally with calcium phosphate, why not stick with nature's way to rebuild the enamel, which is calcium phosphate? And you can get that through foods, and you can get that through other minerals, and you don't have to get it through this fluorided toothpaste, even though you could say, hey, if my teeth are terrible and they're rotting out of my head, and maybe you could use some short-term fluoride supplementation to get you back up to par, realizing that there's a cost benefit there, and there is a potential risk. But then as soon as your teeth are healthy again, then you can switch back to a more natural approach to dentistry.
Well, and I think the mindset of fluoride, it's very, how can I say, it's almost deja vu when I hear people talk about aspartame in the same effect in very small amounts. It's not really considered harmful, but yet it's in so many different foods, especially diet sodas now that have become so popular, that people are just consuming so much of it, and being a sticky plaque and the effects it has on the brain, it seems very similar to what you just described with fluoride. So let me ask you then, you were talking about the foods that contain fluoride, and I'm actually interested myself because I don't know the answer to this. What are those foods that contain natural fluorides that we can introduce into the diet to really have a more natural approach?
Well, spring water is one of those.
Any particular type of spring water, or just spring water in general?
I think just definitely different spring sources have different levels of fluoride based on the ground that they're coming up through and where they're coming from. But foods that have natural fluoride, apples have a little bit, avocados have a little bit, cherries, grapefruits, peaches, those all have a little bit, as well as in the vegetable world, carrots, celery, cucumbers, radishes. So there's good sources of natural fluoride out there, and again, but your teeth are made of calcium phosphate. And if you buy, let's say you went and bought Pronamel or Sensodyne or some enamel rebuilding toothpaste, those are going to be the primary ingredients, calcium phosphate. That's going to be the primary rebuilding tool for enamel, and they might throw some fluoride in there to make it extra hard, but your teeth, again, are calcium phosphate based, not fluoride based.
So let me ask you, because it is a known fact that it is a neurotoxin, why do you believe that there is such a point of contention between the natural holistic community and most dentists, I would say maybe not all, but most, the general public? Why do you think this is such a point of contention? Is it just the speed factor, that it is kind of a Band-Aid until someone can get to a healthier teeth set, or do you believe that it's just an easier approach, or possibly the industry, some of the big, huge giants, Colgate, Crest, those type of companies that supplement dentist's office? What is your take on that quickly?
Yeah, so I don't believe that I don't think it's mind control, and I don't believe that it's a huge conspiracy to try to destroy, the human race, which you can't find that type of information on the internet. And I think it is well intended. I think, you go through dental school and learn all these great things, and you learn that, hey, there is some evidence that would suggest that fluoride does strengthen teeth, and if you are going to bathe your teeth in acid all day long, it may be better than having teeth fall out of your head. If you're going to eat sugar all day long, and it creates carbs in the mouth, and then the bacteria in the mouth, these staphylococcus, and you can just digest that sugar and release lactic acid, and your teeth start to dissolve in your head, and that's what causes tooth decay. If you're going to do that all day long, you're going to suck on sugar candy, you're going to drink, a sip of coffee every day or every minute of the day, so your teeth are constantly bathed in acid, there may be a place, it's a trade-off, it's cost-benefit, and so that's, I think, how the fluoride industry and how dentistry started relying so much on fluoride. It was an easy solution, rather than saying, hey, you know what, let's change your diet, let's eat a little bit more raw foods, let's eat a more natural diet that's rich in calcium, rich in phosphorus, rich in other these minerals, the way that our mouths were intended. And if you approach it that way, I think you can have great teeth. Now, if you're going to rely on a very Western, refined, demineralized diet, and you're not going to have foods rich in minerals, and you're going to eat all kinds of sugary and acidic foods, then fluoride may be better than having no teeth at all. But I don't think it has to be this either or, and that's why, in my opinion, I don't think it's as black and white as either of the extreme camps like to believe it is. I don't think it's maybe near as toxic as some of the fluoride gate type literature, but I don't think it's near as safe as some of the dentistry would like to lead people to believe. I think it's a trade-off, like many things in life.
Well, and I tell you what, we have to go to commercial break, but we're going to pick right back up on this when we come back, Darrell. And remember, Defy Nation, this segment brought to you by the Highway for Health Project. Childhood obesity is a preventable epidemic. Learn more at highwayforhealth.org. That's highway, F-O-R, health.org. Hi, this is Danielle from Define Your Health with Danielle Girdano Strength Through Knowledge radio show. Something that is near and dear to my heart is the absolute epidemic of childhood obesity in the United States. You know, when I was a kid, my dad used to say, if you're not willing to change something or do something about it, you don't have the right to complain. Well, guess what? I'm doing something about it. The Highway for Health project is a project to call attention to this epidemic, this preventable epidemic of childhood obesity, to give parents the tools and the resources needed to educate and make the best choices possible for the next generations of Americans. Help me. Help me help the future. Visit highwayforhealth.org today. Again, that's highwayforhealth.org today. highwayforhealth.org. Hey, Define Nation, this is Danielle from Define Your Health, Strength Through Knowledge. When I'm out racking up the miles on my bike, safety is always top of mind, and that's why Giro is the only choice when it comes to my protective headgear. Giro uses the latest innovative proven technology of MIPS, that's multi-directional impact protection system. In both their snow and biking helmets, Giro is first rate and first in innovation. Giro is on the cutting edge of a new frontier through safety of the rider and championing the spirit. There simply isn't a better helmet whether you're hitting the road or on the slopes. Be daring and live your dreams. Always be safe with Giro. Visit them today at Giro.com. That's GIRO.com. And we are back to Define Nation with our very special guest, Darrell Bashard, who is joining us from Utah, outdoor enthusiast, oral hygiene expert, and a member of one of my most favorite companies, Redmond, which is based in Utah. And Darrell, we finished up the segment, the last segment, talking about fluoride and kind of the point of contention between the holistic community and the more, I don't want to say traditional, but traditional dentists is the best way I can explain it. And we were talking, and you had made a point to say, you don't think it's really as drastic as one side or the other likes to make it. Do you think that some of the misconceptions about about fluoride itself, do you think those misconceptions, because there are so much extremes and there's just so much information thrown at people, or why do you believe there are a lot of misconceptions about fluoride?
I think one of the hard things is oftentimes within natural medicine, we feel, or the industry, it feels very polarized. And if we agree with Western medicine, then we have to walk away completely from Eastern philosophies. And I don't believe that's the case, but I think that's why some of these discussions are so polarizing. And I think there is a place for both. I'm definitely not anti-doctor, and I'm definitely not anti-Western medicine, but I think there are some other great ways we can approach health that isn't as black and white as we have to ignore some of these great ideas from the past and only rely on current medicine. And I think there's great things with current medicine, and would hate to avoid those by just focusing on a more Easternized approach to medicine.
Well, and let's kind of get into some of the other ingredients, because fluoride isn't the only ingredient that there's a difference of opinion on. What other ingredients are commonly found in general toothpaste that are sold across the counter that might have some ingredients that we need to educate ourselves on more?
Yeah, so ones that people are aware of, those are fairly common, and that's artificial colors, artificial flavors. Most naturalists and most people looking to improve their health or to maybe detoxify some of their environment is aware to avoid things with artificial colors, artificial flavors. And so if your toothpaste looks pink or blue or it has microbeads in it, that's the thing. We're trying to get away from that. And so you don't want anything that has microbeads in it, artificial colors, artificial flavors. Mm-hmm. You can buy, fluoride-free toothpaste, and you can buy, non-foaming toothpaste from some companies. But most of those will still have titanium dioxide in it to make the toothpaste look white. And that's the only reason it's in there. And so finding one that doesn't have that can be a bit of a challenge. Other than this, some big name health food stores have said in the next year they will not carry toothpaste that have titanium dioxide as an ingredient. And so that can be pretty interesting, a very big industry change. Now, Earth Paste, our brand, we don't put any titanium dioxide in it, and so it looks like mud. It looks like a nice, gray, lovely mud, but it doesn't look white. But it doesn't look white doesn't mean that it's not helping polish and remove the surface stains from the teeth. So that's the first one. The second one, and this is a little more controversial because you've got some people on both sides of this argument, but that's glycerin. Glycerin is a thickening agent. It kind of makes the toothpaste thick and sticky. So if you looked at earth paste, it runs and it's more smooth and creamy, more like ketchup rather than that thick pasty stuff, and that comes from glycerin. And there was a dentist, that's actually not a dentist, he was a PhD, who wrote a book that mentioned that putting glycerin on your teeth is not great because it's kind of a sticky sugar substance, and if you have this sticky sugar on your teeth, it makes it very hard for the minerals in your mouth and your saliva to remineralize the enamel. That's how your teeth remineralize, is through the saliva in the mouth. And he threw out this hypothesis that having glycerin creates this film on your teeth that isn't great. And there are dentists and naturalists on both sides of this argument. Some say glycerin is completely safe and this guy was a nut job. Others say, hey, maybe all of his research isn't rock solid, but there is something to, why do we want to put a sticky sugar on our teeth? And so, again, if you went into a grocery store, even a health food store today, and picked up any natural, quote-unquote natural brand or even commercial brand of toothpaste, you're probably going to see glycerin as an ingredient as well as titanium dioxide. We know that there's people that don't want it there, and so we're choosing to leave those two ingredients out. And so we've only got 5 simple ingredients in earth paste, 4 in one of the flavors. But we have clay, which is the base. It's the polisher. It's the cleanser. It's also rich in minerals. Calcium and phosphate happen to be in there, as well as other minerals. A little bit of natural sea salt, a little bit of water, some essential oil, and then in some of the flavors we have xylitol, which is a 5-carbon sugar. You excrete xylitol every day in your normal metabolization process, and so it's a 5-carbon sugar. Of course, the version of xylitol we put in the toothpaste isn't human-based; it's plant-based, but it is a natural sugar.
And Darrell, and let me ask you, only because we could talk about this for so much longer. We're running out of time with the show, but I want to refer people to your Facebook page if I can, because I think you guys put a lot of really great information up there, very good quality information. Can you let everyone know what that Facebook page is?
Yeah, it's just facebook.com/earthpaste. And you can also go to YouTube, if that's more your thing, and do search for Earth Paste, or you can just go to earthpaste.com and learn more about us there.
Well, I tell you, I cannot thank you enough, Darrell, one, for ripping yourself away from the slopes, but also for giving us some great information today. So thank you so very much for being on and for being a part of Define Nation today.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me on as a guest.
Absolutely. And Define Nation, you are going to have a chance to actually check out Earth Paste because it's going to be part of our $500 prize pack that we are going to give away via our social media outlets with the correct answer to a trivia question that we are going to post from today's show. Until next time, Define Nation, remember, motivated, dedicated, and highly recommended. Bye-bye.